And of course, that means that Eberechi Eze is a player in quite sharp focus here, currently playing in South London, could be heading to North London, but which way?
I mean, Thomas Frank said it there, that they're after a number 10 because of that cruel injury suffered to James Maddison in pre-season. So clearly there is a space in the squad for someone like Eberechi Eze. We do know that there is interest from Tottenham Hotspur. We do know that there has been interest during this transfer window from Arsenal. But it's very interesting this, because I think both clubs won't want to show their cards just yet, only because if you are one of those clubs and are suddenly going for Eberechi Eze and it becomes quite public that you are, if you miss out to the other club, then it not only means that you've missed out on a player that you want, but you've missed out to your biggest rival. So I think they're just trying to keep it on the low at the moment. Arsenal, as I mentioned, there was interest earlier on in this transfer window, but at the moment it feels like the focus at Arsenal is on sales. The likes of Alexander Zinchenko, Fabio Vieira, Albert Sambi Lokonga, Reece Nelson. And then maybe if they can get enough off the books before the end of the transfer window, could they yet go again? Because Mikel Arteta has said in news conferences on a number of occasions that they might not have ended their interest in incomings in this window.
What about the Palace side of things, Carve?
Well, there have been lots of reports this week that Eze's release clause expires when the new season kicks off tonight, and that release clause is said to be worth up to £68 million. I think even if that release clause does expire tonight, that is the kind of figure that it's going to take to tempt Crystal Palace to sell him. Remember, historically, Steve Parish has always been a very, very tough negotiator. It's been very difficult to sign Crystal Palace's best players, and I think it would take a big, big offer to tempt Crystal Palace to sell Eze. It's interesting as well because Palace have got these two really important European playoff games coming up, because obviously they know now they're in the Conference League. They're playing Friedrichstadt, I think, on the 21st and 28th of August. So maybe that is something that's coming into Palace's thinking as well, because they want to have a stronger squad as possible for those games, even though Palace will be favourites to win that playoff. They just want to make sure that they do win that playoff and get in the draw for the league phase of the Conference League.
What about
Arsenal are currently engaged in negotiations with Crystal Palace regarding a potential deal for Eberechi Eze, as the North London club intensifies its efforts to bolster its attacking options ahead of the new season. Although no official bid has been submitted yet, Arsenal are understood to be preparing a formal offer for the versatile forward, who has impressed with his creativity, dribbling, and goal-scoring ability during his time at Selhurst Park. While talks remain ongoing, sources close to the club suggest that Eze is being seriously considered as a priority target, particularly due to his ability to operate both as a traditional winger and a central attacking midfielder, qualities that align well with Mikel Arteta's tactical vision. As the Gunners continue their search for reinforcements in wide areas, Eze has emerged as one of the leading candidates to provide additional flair and depth to an already promising squad. Arsenal, who remain ambitious in the transfer market following consecutive top-four finishes, are aiming to add more dynamism to their forward line, especially after identifying the need for greater creativity in high-pressure matches. With Crystal Palace reportedly reluctant to part ways with the 26-year-old without a significant fee, the upcoming bid could prove decisive in determining whether Arsenal's pursuit materializes into a completed transfer or turns into an extended...
Because nobody has an agreement with them to sign Eze. And of course, we'll be talking about this as the transfer window draws towards a close, because he's of interest to big clubs. And I don't think Crystal Palace have ever this summer been averse to the idea of him leaving. They know the idea of challenging himself at, say, Champions League level is one that will carry great appeal. And if the finances had been right or are going to be right, then there could be a deal to be done. There's a lot of talk about this release clause, 60 plus £8 million, and when it expires. But even if there's no release clause there, that's the sort of money that Palace would be looking for. And yeah, we know there's been strong interest from Arsenal, and they'd had conversations with his camp. It now emerges that Tottenham have been holding some talks around the situation. But at the time of recording, to my knowledge, neither of those clubs are prepared to pay the level of finance that Crystal Palace would be looking for at this moment to do the deal. As I said, around £68 million, which was or is the release clause value. So unless that changes, or those clubs are suddenly more willing to pay that amount of money, then he will stay with Crystal Palace. Whether that is beyond the transfer window, I don't know, because a lot can change. Or will Crystal Palace come down in their asking